Hey everybody, today I am reviewing I, Tonya, which was directed by Craig Gillespie. You could not pick a more biased person to review this film because, as many of you know, I'm a big fan of films and I know a lot about them, but I also know a lot about figure skating. That is also one of my passions in life. When I started this channel years and years ago, I at one point considered just turning it into a figure skating commentary channel. Obviously I didn't. You're welcome. So naturally I know a lot about the Nancy Kerrigan-Tonya Harding scandal that happened in 1994, where a plot was carried out to attack Nancy Kerrigan so that she wouldn't be able to compete at the Nationals leading into the Olympics. And the attack was, for the most part, planned, as far as we know, by Tonya Harding's ex-husband Jeff Gillooly and her bodyguard Sean Eckhart. I always thought it would be a really difficult undertaking for anyone to make a movie about this, just because the facts themselves are so slippery and there is so much that is bizarre about it and inaccurate. So what they've decided to go for here in order to make all of that plausible is they've kind of gone for a Scorsese influence movie. So this is basically like if Goodfellas was about a figure skater. And they've structured it so that there's a lot of breaking the fourth wall throughout the film, and there's a lot of unreliable narration from multiple characters telling their point of view on what happened. And of course, all of these different stories contradict each other. All right, so I'm gonna talk about what I liked about the film first, because I've got very mixed opinions on this movie. I will give it this, it is really entertaining. While watching it, I had a really good time. It is very well made. It does maintain that fluidity of the filmmaking, and it maintains that clever kind of satirical bite. It's really funny. I laughed a lot, and the whole audience did, particularly in the first half of the film. And the performances are fantastic. As somebody who really knows the sport, who knows the scandal really well, a lot of the actors just captured the person that they're supposed to be portraying perfectly. Some of them were spot on. I gotta give kudos to Sebastian Stan, who played Jeff Gillooly. I honestly think that he had the most difficult part to play in this film. And he had him down, and of course he's playing Tonya Harding's abusive husband in this film, but what he captures about the real guy is really fascinating, because the real guy, you know, when you watch him, he is pretty bland and he is a loser, essentially. Someone who is so unlikable, particularly in this set of events, yet he is able to bring a bit of pathos, because he's a crucial part of the film, especially when things get complicated and, you know, their relationship becomes very violent. And of course, I've got to mention Allison Janney, who played LaVonna Harding, Tonya Harding's mother. She steals every single moment that she's on screen. I felt like this was her playground, playing this character. You could just get the sense that she was reveling in every single line she had to deliver. It's just so deliciously wicked, this woman. And for the most part, I think that Margot Robbie does a good job. She does the very actory, Oscar baity sort of thing where, you know, you try to make somebody who is gorgeous look very kind of plain by putting lots of makeup on them. I never felt that she actually disappeared into the role, but to me she captured more the essence of Tonya Harding rather than it being just a straight-on imitation. For me, I always thought that Tonya Harding should have been played by somebody that looks a little bit more plain, because no matter what you do to Margot Robbie, she still is going to look really, really beautiful. But I still think she did a good job, because she's the kind of person that you can get behind, that you follow, and the entire arc of her character is convincing, because this particular portrayal of Tonya Harding is a sympathetic one. They are really sympathizing with the anti-hero. I actually think that they are too heavily sympathizing with the anti-hero, and that kind of leads me into this whole spiel about what I didn't like about the film. I talked about Scorsese earlier, somebody who obviously specializes in making films about anti-heroes. And this film is so following his structure to a T. All of the cliches we've ever seen from a Scorsese ripoff. So it has that montage feel. Everything is very fast. There's just music playing constantly to make it feel really zeitgeisty. And they pick a lot of very cliche choices of music here. Everything from Fleetwood Mac to Susie and the Banshees, Shooting Star by Bad Company. Lots of talking heads in this film as well. When I think of like a color to represent this movie, I think, it's hot pink, it's rock and roll, it pops, it's stylized. But for me, when you watch a Scorsese film, or I should say a quality Scorsese film that's using those same tropes, I think that he is using the sensationalism to make a commentary about the anti-hero in a much more complex way than this film is. While it's entertaining, and I think it's a very confident film, I think deep down it doesn't really understand its own intent like it thinks it does. If you're gonna make a movie that is as confident and as deliberate as this one, you need to be really careful about how you go about it, I think, because I think There's a fine line between understanding the intent of the material and trying to make a greater point about it without spoon-feeding the audience and falling victim to the sensationalism that you're criticizing. And I think that this movie falls more into that category. I said earlier that the film victimizes Tonya Harding rather than holding her responsible for her own actions. And I do think that this is semi-fair in part because, you know, she did have a lot of major struggles to overcome in her life. She was abused both by her mother and by her husband. She was not the stereotypical image of what a figure skater was at the time, a very glitzy kind of pretty princess. She was a smoker, a beer drinker, she fixed cars, she hunted. As a figure skater, she was not delicate or graceful. She was very strong, very athletic. She had huge jumps, but she didn't have much artistry or extension. At the beginning of the movie, and I'm not kidding, it says something along the lines of, Tonya Harding represents America and all of its flaws. And I'm just kind of like, thank you, movie. Thank you for giving me your intent right at the beginning. That's the problem right here. This movie wants to be this big commentary on America, using Tonya Harding as the main metaphor for that, but it's also wanting to be a cautionary tale and a comedy/tragedy where domestic violence is somehow amusing. It's a commentary on truth or lack thereof. And of course, a commentary on tabloid media. By using this particular style and structure, I think that it starts to drown in all of that. I say about a film, you can either come away from it, if it's good, you can come away with it with some deeper understanding about whatever the subject is, or you can come away with it kind of getting wrapped up in the aesthetic and the melodrama of it. This film is the same way. It's wrapped up in its own sense of melodrama. It's wrapped up in its media sensationalism, rather than ever being able to rise above it and see it for what it is. It is well made, as I said, for a second-rate Scorsese type of approach, and I'll probably watch it again, but that might be more the figure skating fan in me talking rather than the movie critic. So overall, I think, yeah, it is worth watching, but once you look a little bit closer, that's when you see that the film isn't as self-assured as it thinks it is, and it is perhaps unintentionally glorifying Tonya Harding and the scandal itself in ways that just left a kind of a bad taste in my mouth. And that is my review. Thank you all for watching. All my social media information is below. You can watch more videos here, and you can subscribe if you'd like. Catch you next time.